Hi everybody, Dana Litwin here again, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. This week, talking about days of service. And yesterday here in the USA, we had our 9/11 Day of Remembrance and Day of Service, and usually national or federal or government organizations like AmeriCorps and other kind of conservation corps do a day of service. And if your organization, if your nonprofit is associated with veterans or military support, this could be something that's just second nature to you to do. But for other organizations whose missions aren't directly involved with veterans or military support, I really want to help examine not just this day of service and the who is it for and why are you doing it, but also if you're not in the United States, whatever holidays are associated kind of annual or every few months days of service planning that you might be doing with your organization. So if we think about specifically 9/11 and that day of service that occurred yesterday, that is centering, of course, around mourning, remembrance, and the theme of helping others to help and heal yourself from traumatic events, and kind of associating mental health, which I talked about in last week's Tuesday Tips, with these volunteer activities. And typically these days of service involve hosting large groups, whether that's community groups, faith groups, or corporate groups, businesses. And I have a whole other Tuesday Tips last year around Earth Day that you can check out here in this card about kind of how to set that up. But this week I want to talk about the who and the why, and also the opportunities you have in any kind of day of service in any country you're in, whatever time of year, to convert the episodic or drop-in volunteers from a group into regular and recurring volunteers that are plugged into shifts and roles that are ongoing with your organization. So if you're thinking about who this is for, if again your organization is, like here in the States, AmeriCorps, or associated with a government agency, or associated with veteran benefits or support or military services, of course you're doing a 9/11 day of service. If your organization or agency does not directly have a mission that ties into that, then really examine, honestly and transparently, why you're doing the day of service and whether it's genuinely going to be a useful work day for your agency for accomplishing your mission and your goals, or is it more of a publicity thing or a habit, or well, everyone else is doing it so we should, or your board or leadership or donors think that it's a good public relations, PR, promotional opportunity. So kind of examine the motivation and who is benefiting. Is it more stressful for volunteers and paid employees to put a big giant group service day together, or is it, again, accomplishing something real in your missions work and organizational goals? So when you're doing a big production like this, there's a lot of run up to it and a lot of effort. But to make that effort pay off even more, hopefully the work you're doing on a day of service is, again, genuinely useful to everybody, and volunteers don't feel like they're doing busy work and they understand the mission and impact. But one of the ways to kind of convert drop-in or brand new potential volunteers in a day of service or a big corporate or group event to more regular roles is to prepare your volunteer team leaders, other volunteers that might be leading new people in new groups, or your paid employees that are there, kind of giving everyone some message points about how to volunteer, what the roles are that you want filled with the most urgency, if there are certain shifts that you're trying to get more people for, and also to help anyone who's working with these groups in any kind of communication be consistent in the communication, and on the day of the event very clearly communicating why the work they're doing is important. So again, it doesn't feel like busy work, that it's meaningful and it's impactful, and how recurring or regularly scheduled volunteer roles support the mission even more. And if that happens to resonate with the new group and the drop-in or the episodic folks that you're working with, fantastic. I've had great success with just being consistent in the message of the agency and the mission and helping people in a drop-in group, maybe it's their first time interacting with your organization, have a really good and meaningful experience. And a good experience can still be with challenging work, with emotionally or physically challenging work, but can create this sense of teamwork and camaraderie and trust, and we're all in this together, and can actually, even if you're doing something physically or emotionally challenging as a volunteer activity for a day of service, that can be a potential bonding experience for folks to resonate with their heart, with the mission of the agency, and see if there is a place for them in your regularly scheduled roles. It's also good to have a lot of contact cards for you as the manager of volunteer services or volunteer coordinator. So, again, every one of your regularly scheduled volunteers that's there and helping lead the efforts of a new drop-in group and all of your paid employees, make sure everyone has cards or a brochure about volunteer programs and contact information, and that, again, with their messaging points that they've hopefully learned and know all of the time, not just for these events, but especially for this Day of Service event, make sure that folks have accurate messaging information about why your mission and work is important and where they can go for more information. So whether that's a QR code on a brochure that they can scan and go to your website, or maybe your volunteer management software is hosting a page for volunteer recruitment for you, or through Volunteer Match or Idealist or another site. And then during the event, thank people, again, contribute to this becoming a significant, meaningful memory and experience for everyone who is volunteering that day, and then do follow up with thank you emails or text messages, and make sure that people understand that if they do want to stay involved as a volunteer, as a donor, as an advocate, as a supporter, whatever that translates to for your mission success, that they have the information and the links and the tools to follow up with you. So I hope you've enjoyed these Tuesday tips about days of service wherever you are in the world, and I hope that if you did a day of service yesterday for 9/11, that you and all of your team members had a good, meaningful experience, and you can rest after such a big production a little bit later this week. We'll see you next time with more Tuesday tips. Please like and subscribe if you're not yet part of the Cool Kids Club for priceless advice with leaders of volunteers, and hit the bell icon below to be notified when I have new videos up at least once a week. Thanks so much. Take care.